My name is Samantha Hayes, and I'm standing at the back of my brother's Navy SEAL graduation ceremony, invisible in civilian clothes, among families bursting with pride. At 35, I've learned to make myself small, unremarkable, a skill that serves me well in my actual profession, though my family would never guess that. The ceremony unfolds with military precision on the pristine grounds of Naval Special Warfare Command in Coronado. Flags snap in the Pacific breeze as families clutch programs featuring their sons' and daughters' photographs. I watch from the final row, studying faces I've known my entire life, but who barely acknowledge my presence anymore. My younger brother, Jack, stands at attention with his SEAL class, his posture perfect, eyes forward. Even from this distance, I can see our father's influence in every line of his bearing. 28 years old and already following the golden path that I supposedly abandoned years ago. What none of them can know is that in 3 hours, I'll be back in my real uniform, briefing a joint task force on a counterterrorism operation I've been coordinating for 6 months. But here, now, I'm just Sam the disappointment, watching from the margins of my own family. Growing up as the daughter of retired Navy Captain Thomas Hayes meant excellence wasn't just encouraged, it was assumed. Our San Diego home displayed 3 generations of naval service grandfathers' World War II commendations, father's Cold War deployment photos, and the prominent space reserved for the next generation's achievements. Captain Hayes commanded respect wherever he went. His booming voice filled our dining room with stories of maritime strategy and military honor. My mother, Eleanor, a Navy spouse who'd perfected the art of maintaining grace under pressure, organized our household like a well-run ship. From childhood, I absorbed every story, studied every map in Father's office, and dreamed of earning my place among the family heroes. I ran 5 miles before school, scored perfect marks in advanced mathematics, and applied to the Naval Academy with a flawless record. When my acceptance letter arrived, my father actually hugged me, a rare physical display of affection that made the moment feel monumentally important. "Don't waste this opportunity," he'd said, his voice rough with emotion I desperately hoped was pride. But that was before everything changed, before the recruitment, before the lies became necessary. Now, Jack occupies that position of honor. The family gatherings revolve around his accomplishments, his advancement, his promising future. And I sit in the back row, the cautionary tale of wasted potential. As the ceremony continues, I notice a familiar figure on the platform, Rear Admiral Wilson, his dress uniform bearing ribbons I recognize from joint operations briefings. My chest tightens with professional recognition, but I force myself to remain relaxed. Invisible. The Admiral scans the crowd during his remarks about honor and service. His gaze sweeps past families, past proud parents, past our eyes meet. I see the exact moment recognition dawns. His eyebrows lift slightly, and I give the smallest shake of my head, a silent plea for discretion. He nods almost imperceptibly and continues his speech, but I can feel his attention returning to me throughout his remarks. As the ceremony concludes and families surge forward to congratulate their graduates, I calculate my exit strategy. Quick congratulations to Jack, brief acknowledgement to parents, then disappear before awkward questions arise. It's a routine I've perfected over years of family events. But Admiral Wilson moves through the crowd with purpose, and despite my careful positioning near the exit, his commanding presence creates a clear path directly to me. "Lieutenant Colonel Hayes." His voice carries clearly above the post-ceremony chatter. "I didn't expect to see you here today." The words hit the space around us like a detonation. Conversations falter. Heads turn. My parents, standing just 10 feet away beside Jack, freeze in confusion. "Admiral Wilson," I respond automatically, my military bearing asserting itself despite my civilian clothes. "Good to see you, sir." "Last time was that joint operation in the Gulf, wasn't it?" he continues, either unaware of my family's proximity or choosing to ignore it. Your intelligence work was exemplary, saved a lot of lives. My mother's hand flies to her throat. Jack's expression shifts from celebration to bewilderment. My father stands rigid, his trained naval mind processing information that doesn't compute. "Lieutenant Colonel?" My father's voice cuts through the murmur of nearby conversations. The rank sounds foreign in his mouth when directed at me. Admiral Wilson turns, recognizing my family for the first time. His eyes widen slightly as he takes in my father's decorated dress uniform and the obvious family resemblance. "Captain Hayes," he acknowledges with respect before turning back to me with raised eyebrows. They don't know. Before I can respond, Commander Brooks approaches, extending his hand with professional warmth. "Colonel Hayes, your team's work on the Mindanao operation was remarkable. We've implemented your extraction protocols across 3 divisions." The carefully constructed walls between my 2 worlds crumble in real time. Years of protection, of necessary deception, dissolving under the weight of unavoidable truth. "Samantha." My mother's voice trembles with confusion. "What are they talking about?" I look at my family, at the confusion, the hurt beginning to dawn in their eyes, at Jack still holding his seal trident in hands that shake slightly with the magnitude of this revelation. The moment of decision arrives without warning or preparation. 12 years of secrecy press against the sudden exposure, creating a disorienting pressure. But as I study their faces, I realize that continuing the deception is no longer possible. "Yes," I confirm simply, my voice steady despite the chaos in my chest. "It's true." The flashback hits me as I watch my family struggle to process the revelation. 12 years ago, I was a 3rd-year midshipman at the Naval Academy, excelling in strategy courses and leadership training. My grades placed me in the top 5% of my class, and my tactical simulations consistently earned perfect scores. That's when Agent Morrison found me. "Midshipman Hayes," she'd said after intercepting me following advanced cryptology, "I'm Agent Morrison, Defense Intelligence Agency. We need to talk." The meeting took place in a nondescript office building in Annapolis. Morrison, a woman in her 40s with intelligent eyes and no-nonsense bearing, sat across from me with a classified folder. "You have a unique combination of analytical capability and tactical intuition," she explained. "Our psychological assessments indicate you process complex information differently than most people. You see patterns where others see chaos." She slid the folder across the table. "We're building a new program, Joint Service Special Operations, with a focus on intelligence gathering and crisis response. It requires immediate transition and absolute secrecy." I opened the folder to find mission profiles that made my pulse quicken: counterterrorism in denied areas, hostage rescue coordination, disruption of human trafficking networks. This was the kind of work I dreamed about but never imagined was possible. "What about my family?" I asked. "They're expecting me to graduate, to follow the traditional naval path." Morrison's expression softened slightly. "The program requires a cover story. Your family will need to believe you washed out of the academy. It's the simplest explanation. Many qualified candidates don't make it through the full program, and it will draw minimal attention." The weight of the decision pressed down on me. Disappoint my family to serve my country in ways they could never know or understand. "How long would this last?" I asked. "Indefinitely." Morrison replied honestly. "The nature of the work means operational security must be maintained throughout your career. Your family would eventually learn you're military, but specifics about your rank, assignment, and operations would remain classified." I thought about my father's pride in military service, about the legacy I was supposed to continue, about Jack following behind me on the same path. Then I thought about the missions in that folder, about making a difference in ways most people would never even know were necessary. "I'll do it," I said. Morrison nodded with satisfaction. "Report to Dover Air Force Base tomorrow at 0600. Your academy departure will be processed as an academic dismissal. Pack light, everything you need will be provided. The transition from midshipman to Air Force Special Operations was abrupt and intense. While my family believed I was returning home in failure, I was actually beginning some of the most rigorous training the military offered. The program facility, an unmarked compound in Nevada, operated with a level of security I'd never imagined. Days began at 0400 and often ended after midnight. Physical conditioning was merely the foundation. The real work involved learning to process and analyze intelligence in real-time crisis situations, often while experiencing extreme physical stress or sleep deprivation. "Hayes, your mind works differently," noted Major Lawrence, my primary instructor, after I solved a complex intelligence simulation in record time. "You see connections where others see random data points. That's what we need in the field." My first operational assignment came after 11 months of training a low-profile intelligence gathering mission in Afghanistan. The objective was to identify and map a terrorist network that had been responsible for 3 IED attacks on coalition forces. Working with a team of analysts and field operatives, I developed a methodology for tracking communication patterns and predicting movement. Within 6 weeks, we had identified 12 key network members and their operational structure. The information led to successful raids that dismantled the entire cell. The mission earned me a commendation, an immediate promotion to first lieutenant. More importantly, it established my reputation as someone who could produce actionable intelligence under pressure. Over the following years, my specialty evolved into coordinating complex operations that combined intelligence gathering with direct action. I learned to speak 3 languages fluently, became expert in satellite analysis, and developed skills in crisis management that few people in any military possessed. The operations blurred together Syria, Somalia, the Philippines, Eastern Europe, each mission built on the last, creating a career trajectory that accelerated far beyond normal timelines. By age 30, I had been promoted to major and was leading my own intelligence teams. The work was fulfilling in ways I struggled to explain even to myself. Every successful operation meant lives saved, attacks prevented, hostages returned to their families. The classified commendations accumulated in secure files, invisible to everyone except those with appropriate clearances. But each professional success deepened the chasm between my real life and my family life. Maintaining the cover story required constant vigilance and creativity. To my family, I was Sam Hayes, insurance claims adjuster for a mid-sized company in Virginia. The job provided explanation for travel, irregular hours, and periods of unavailability without raising suspicions. The psychological toll was enormous. During Jack's college graduation, I was coordinating a rescue operation for kidnapped aid workers in Syria. While my family celebrated his achievement, I was managing real-time intelligence feeds and tactical communications for a team extracting hostages from a terrorist compound. When my cousin Michael married, I missed the ceremony entirely. The official excuse was a work conference. The reality was leading an operation that prevented a major cyber attack on critical infrastructure. My parents' reactions grew increasingly distant. Birthday calls became perfunctory. Holiday invitations carried undertones of duty rather than welcome. "Samantha just doesn't prioritize family," I overheard my mother explaining to her sister during one tense Thanksgiving gathering. "We raised her to understand commitment, but she seems to have lost her way." The words cut deeper than any physical wound I'd sustained in the field. I wanted to scream that I was serving our country in ways that would make them proud, that my commitment exceeded anything they could imagine. Instead, I mumbled agreement and changed the subject. Jack, following his own military path, struggled to understand my apparent apathy toward service and achievement. His calls grew less frequent, his tone increasingly formal. "How's the insurance business?" he would ask, the question carrying subtle judgment about my unremarkable civilian career. "Fine," I would respond, hating every syllable of the lie. "Same old stuff." Meanwhile, My actual achievements were accumulating at an extraordinary pace. I was promoted to lieutenant colonel at 33, among the youngest officers ever to reach that rank in special operations. My mission success rate was unprecedented. My teams had prevented 17 terrorist attacks, rescued 43 hostages, and dismantled networks spanning 3 continents. But my family knew none of it. To them, I remained the disappointment who had wasted her potential and settled for mediocrity. The weight of living this double life grew heavier each year. There were nights after particularly difficult operations when I would sit alone in my apartment, surrounded by commendation letters I could never show anyone, feeling more isolated than during any solo mission in hostile territory. Yet my commitment to the work never wavered. The stakes were too high, the missions too critical. If the price of protecting national security was my family's understanding, I would continue to pay it. 6 months before Jack's SEAL graduation, our family relationships reached their lowest point. Jack had announced his engagement to Allison, a Navy medical officer he'd met during training. The celebration was planned for a Saturday evening at my parents' country club, a formal affair befitting the son who had exceeded every expectation. I had every intention of attending. For weeks, I'd protected the date, declined potential mission assignments, and even purchased an appropriate dress. This would be my chance to show support for Jack, to be the sister he deserved. Then the call came at 1600 hours on that Saturday. "Colonel Hayes, we have a situation." The voice belonged to General Martinez, my commanding officer. "American embassy personnel in Romania have been taken hostage. Intelligence indicates they'll be moved within 8 hours. You're the only one with operational knowledge of the network responsible." Through my apartment window, I could see people heading to evening celebrations, families gathering for dinners, couples dressed for parties, normal people living normal lives without the weight of life and death decisions. "How many personnel?" I asked, already knowing I had no choice. 7, including the ambassador's daughter. Romanian authorities are overwhelmed. This is our operation." I looked at the dress hanging on my door, thought about Jack's face when I'd promised to be there, imagined my parents' resigned disappointment when I failed to appear again. "I'll be there in 30 minutes, I said. The operation consumed the next 48 hours. Using intelligence I'd gathered from a previous mission tracking the same terrorist network, I coordinated a joint Romanian-American extraction that successfully recovered all 7 hostages without casualties. It was textbook special operations precise, efficient, successful. While I was managing communications and tactical oversight from the operations center, Jack's engagement party proceeded without me. Again. My mother's phone call came 3 days later, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Your brother was hurt, Samantha. Really hurt. This was one of the most important nights of his life, and you just disappeared." I closed my eyes, still exhausted from the operation. "I'm sorry, Mom." "There was an emergency at work." "What kind of insurance emergency happens on a Saturday evening?" she interrupted. "What could possibly be more important than your brother's engagement?" I had no answer she could understand. The 7 people alive because of that weekend's work would never know my name. Their families would never send thank you cards. The prevention of an international incident wouldn't appear in my civilian personnel file. "I know how it looks," I said finally. I couldn't avoid it." "You could have avoided it," my mother replied firmly. "You chose not to. Jack asked me specifically if you were coming. I told him you'd promised. Do you know what it's like to watch your son scan the crowd all evening, looking for his sister who never shows up?" The conversation ended with my mother's quiet suggestion that perhaps I should consider whether I really wanted to be part of this family. The words echoed in my apartment for weeks afterward. My father's reaction was worse. He said nothing at all. The man who had shaped my understanding of duty and service simply stopped acknowledging my existence in any meaningful way. The months leading up to Jack's SEAL graduation were marked by increasingly strained interactions. Phone calls became rare and formal. Holiday gatherings felt like diplomatic negotiations rather than family celebrations. I found myself questioning everything. During a particularly difficult briefing about potential deployment to West Africa, I asked General Martinez about transitioning to a public-facing role. "Colonel, you're one of our most valuable assets," he replied without hesitation. "The Mindanao network you dismantled last year has stayed dismantled because they know we have capabilities they can't predict or counter. Your operational security is critical to ongoing missions." "But what about personal relationships?" I pressed. "How long can this continue?" Martinez studied me with the frank assessment of a career military officer. "This job requires sacrifices most people can't imagine. If you're having doubts about your commitment, we need to discuss reassignment immediately." I looked at the mission files on his desk operations that would save lives, prevent attacks, protect interests vital to national security. Then I thought about Jack's upcoming graduation, about my father's silence, about my mother's resigned disappointment. "No doubts, sir," I said. "I'm committed." But as I drove home that evening, I wondered if commitment to country was worth losing connection to family entirely. The night before Jack's graduation ceremony, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, torn between duty to my career and desperate longing to be known by the people who had shaped me. For the first time in 12 years, I seriously considered revealing everything consequences to national security be damned. Instead, I chose compromise. I would attend the graduation ceremony, offer genuine congratulations, and try one more time to bridge the gap without breaking operational security. Perhaps if they saw me making the effort, the relationship could begin healing. I had no idea that Admiral Wilson would be there, no idea that my two worlds were about to collide with nuclear force, as I prepared for what I thought would be a simple family gathering. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change irrevocably. Admiral Wilson's words still hang in the air as my family struggles to process this new reality. The crowd around us has grown, drawn by the sight of high-ranking officers engaged in what appears to be significant conversation. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes led the intelligence operation that prevented the Seoul embassy bombing. Commander Brooks adds, apparently unaware of the family drama unfolding. 36 hours of continuous analysis saved hundreds of lives. My father's face cycles through disbelief, confusion, and the beginning glimmers of understanding. As a career naval officer, he recognizes the weight of what's being discussed. "The Seoul operation was classified at the highest levels," he says slowly, his command experience showing, "if you're discussing it openly." "The Colonel's family, sir," Admiral Wilson explains, finally grasping the situation. "They weren't aware of her service record." Jack steps forward, his SEAL training evident in how he processes unexpected information. "Sam, you're actually Air Force Special Operations Intelligence Division," I confirm quietly. "I was recruited from the academy directly into a classified program. The dropout story was my cover." My mother looks physically unsteady. "All this time, when we said..." She trails off, unable to finish sentences that suddenly carry unbearable weight. "Why?" my father asks, and it's not accusation in his voice anymore. It's the question of one military professional to another. Why maintain the deception with family? Before I can answer, my secure phone vibrates with the pattern that indicates highest priority communication. The sound is unmistakable to anyone with military experience: urgent, official, immediate. "Excuse me," I say, stepping away to check the message. The text makes my blood freeze. "Priority Alpha, USS Constellation SEAL Team missing. Hostile capture confirmed. Immediate deployment required." I know that team designation. I know because Jack was assigned to USS Constellation just last week. I return to my family with my expression controlled, but Jack reads something in my posture immediately. "What is it?" he asks. I look at Admiral Wilson, making a split-second decision about operational security versus family crisis. "Sir, I need to speak with you privately." We step aside, and I show him the message. His face hardens as he reads. When he asks, "The notification just came through. I'm the primary intelligence officer for Philippine operations. I know the terrain, the networks, the extraction points." I pause, looking back at my family. One of the captured SEALs is my brother. Admiral Wilson's expression shifts to something approaching sympathy. "Colonel, this creates a conflict of interest that—" "Sir, respectfully, I'm the only analyst who's successfully operated in that region. I mapped the terrorist networks there 18 months ago. I know their patterns, their safe houses, their methods." My voice carries the authority of someone accustomed to being listened to in crisis situations. Personal connection aside, I'm the most qualified person to coordinate the rescue. He studies me for a long moment, then nods. "I'll make the call. How long do you need?" 10 minutes to brief my family, then immediate transport to the operations center. As I return to my parents and my brother, who doesn't yet know he's about to become the subject of a rescue mission, I realize that the next few hours will either repair or completely destroy what remains of our family relationships. "Jack," I say quietly, "I need you to listen very carefully. Your team has been captured in the Philippines. I'm being activated to coordinate the rescue operation." The color drains from his face. "My team. All of them. All 6 members. Intelligence indicates they're being held by Abu Sayyaf affiliates, but they're planning to move you them within 48 hours. My father steps forward, his naval training taking over. "What kind of support do you need?" It's the first time in 12 years he's asked me that question in a military context, and the weight of the moment threatens to overwhelm me. "I need you to trust me," I say simply. "I need you to understand that everything I've done, every lie I've told, every family event I've missed, it was for work like this. For moments when lives hang in the balance and the mission requires everything." My mother grabs my arm. "You can save him. You can bring Jack home." "I'm going to try. I promise. But I need you to know that if I fail, if something goes wrong, it won't be because I didn't risk everything. This is what I do. This is who I am." Jack, processing the reality of his situation with SEAL discipline, looks directly at me. "Sam, Colonel, whatever I should call you now. I need to know, are you good at this job?" For the first time in 12 years, I can answer honestly. I'm the best there is at what I do. He nods once, sharp and military. "Then go do it." My father stands at attention and renders a perfect salute. "Bring him home, Colonel." I return the salute, feeling for the first time like his daughter and his fellow officer simultaneously. The Joint Operations Center at Naval Base Coronado transforms into controlled chaos as intelligence feeds converge from satellites, drones, and human assets across the Pacific. I'm back in my element, surrounded by screens displaying real-time data from the Philippines. "Colonel Hayes." General Martinez greets me as I enter the secure briefing room. "Situation report." Major Lisa Chen, our regional intelligence specialist, activates the main display. 6-man SEAL team captured during reconnaissance mission on Jolo Island. Initial intelligence suggests Abu Sayyaf group involvement, but the operational sophistication indicates coordination with Jamaah Islamiyah networks. I study the satellite imagery, cross-referencing it with maps I memorized during my previous operations in the region. "Chen, pull up the analysis from Operation Seahawk, my mission 18 months ago. The compound locations, the movement patterns, the communication intercepts." Data flows across multiple screens as my previous intelligence work populates the briefing displays. The room falls silent as officers realize the scope of what I'd accomplished during that earlier deployment. "You mapped their entire organizational structure," Chen says with professional admiration. "Not just mapped," I correct. "I identified their preferred holding locations, their transportation routes, and their decision-making timeline. They follow predictable patterns because they've been successful using them. Admiral Wilson, who arrived shortly after me, leans forward. Assessment, Colonel. I point to 3 locations on the satellite imagery. They're here, here, or here, based on the timing of the capture and their standard protocols. Most likely this compound. I highlight a structure partially concealed by jungle canopy. They'll move the hostages tomorrow night. Friday, prayers provide cover for transportation. Extraction options, General Martinez asks. 3 approaches. I outline tactical options with the confidence of someone who has coordinated dozens of similar operations. Maritime insertion from the west, helicopter extraction from the north, or ground infiltration from the east. Each has advantages and risks. For the next 6 hours, I coordinate with Delta Force, Navy SEALs, Air Force Special Operations, and Philippine military assets. The mission planning is complex, multiple moving pieces that must synchronize perfectly to succeed. Throughout the planning, I think about Jack, not as my brother, but as SEAL Team Leader Hayes, a trained professional who understands the risks of his chosen career. Personal emotion has no place in operational planning. At 03:00 hours, the operation begins. 2 MH-60M Blackhawks launch from USS Bataan, carrying 12 Delta Force operators toward the target compound. Simultaneously, Philippine Navy vessels establish a maritime perimeter to prevent escape by sea. I coordinate from the operations center, managing communications between air assets, ground teams, and command structure. Multiple screens display feeds from drone surveillance, satellite imagery, and helmet cameras from the assault team. Overwatch, this is Ground Team Alpha, comes the voice of the team leader through encrypted communications. Visual on the compound, multiple buildings, estimated 15 hostile personnel. Alpha, Overwatch, confirm target building based on thermal signatures. Affirmative. Heat signatures consistent with 6 personnel in the eastern structure. Matches intelligence assessment. The assault unfolds with precision choreography. Flashbang grenades illuminate the night as operators breach multiple entry points simultaneously. Radio chatter maintains professional calm, despite the violence of the operation. Hostiles down. Building secured. Package 1 located and secured. Package 2 through 6 confirmed alive and mobile. Relief floods through me, but I maintain operational focus. All packages confirmed secure. Affirmative. Overwatch. 6 packages secured. Minimal injuries. Ready for extraction. The helicopters complete the extraction without incident. 47 minutes from insertion to departure, textbook special operations execution. Jack arrives at the medical facility 12 hours later, his arm in a sling but walking under his own power. The reunion takes place in a secure conference room at Naval Base Coronado, with my parents, Admiral Wilson, and General Martinez present. "How did you know?" Jack asks as soon as he sees me. "How did you know exactly where we were? I've been tracking those networks for 2 years. I explain. During Operation Seahawk, I mapped their entire operational structure. When you were captured, I knew their protocols, their preferred locations, their timing." My father steps forward, and for the first time since childhood, I see something approaching awe in his expression. "You saved your brother's life." "I did my job," I reply. But the words carry weight they never had before. Jack grabs my hand with his uninjured arm. "Sam, Colonel, I owe you everything. My team owes you everything." "You don't owe me anything," I say quietly. "This is what I've been doing for 12 years. This is why I couldn't tell you who I really was." My mother wipes tears from her eyes. "We spent all these years thinking you'd given up on serving your country, but you were serving it in ways we couldn't even imagine." 3 weeks after the rescue operation, our family gathers for the first dinner that feels genuinely peaceful in over a decade. The dining room is the same, but everything else has changed. I've requested a position change, Baraka, I announce as we finish the main course. Still special operations, but more analysis, less field deployment. I want to find better balance between the mission and family. My father nods slowly. The work you do, it's important, but family is important too. I know I can't share details about most operations, I continue, but I can share enough that you understand when I'm called away. It's because someone's life depends on it. Jack, his arm still healing, but his spirits completely recovered, grins at me. You know, it's pretty cool having a sister who's basically a real-life superhero. Not a superhero, I correct. Just someone who found the right job for her particular skills. Over the following months, we developed new patterns of communication. I can't share operational details, but I can share enough context that my absences make sense. When I miss family events, they understand it's because of mission requirements, not lack of caring. My mother starts following international news more closely, sometimes asking gentle questions about regions where I might be working. I can't confirm or deny, but she seems to find comfort in understanding the scope of challenges I face. My father, perhaps most remarkably, begins introducing me to his Navy colleagues with obvious pride. My daughter serves in Air Force Special Operations, he'll say, and leave it at that. The simple acknowledgement means everything. Jack's wedding takes place 6 months later. And this time, I'm not just present, I'm his best man. The reversal of traditional roles seems appropriate for a family learning to see each other clearly for the first time. During my toast at the reception, I speak about the courage required to choose service, about the strength needed to support those who serve, and about the power of family bonds that survive even the most challenging circumstances. To Jack and Allison, I conclude, and to families who love each other enough to forgive the necessary secrets. Later, as the celebration continues around us, Jack finds me on the hotel terrace. "Any regrets?" he asks. About the years we lost, the misunderstandings. I consider the question carefully. I regret that it took so long to find balance, but I don't regret the service. The work matters, Jack. It matters in ways that most people will never know. He nods, understanding in a way that only another military professional could. Well, for what it's worth, I'm proud to be your brother, Colonel Hayes. I'm proud to be your sister, Lieutenant Hayes. We stand together in comfortable silence, two Hayes children who finally understand each other, watching the stars over San Diego and thinking about the different ways we serve the same ideals our father taught us to value. Sometimes the most important truths are the ones that take the longest to reveal. But when they finally emerge, they create possibilities for connection that deception never could.